Hey guys, welcome back to Community Cares. I'm Dave, the Executive Director here at Good Shepherd's Clothes Closet.
And I'm Chaplain Chaz Blackburn, and I have the honor of being the President of Good Shepherd's Clothes Closet. And this episode has had so many hiccups to finally get out. We have a really special guest. We actually recorded an episode before, and it got deleted, Dave. Thank you.
Yeah.
No, just kidding. Things happen. We had to reschedule a few times before that, and so thank you for being so patient and kind and coming back and making this actually happen.
Hey, well, we had our first round, so
That's right.
now this one will be even better.
That's right. That's how it works. So thank you. And would you mind introducing yourself to our audience?
Yes, hi, I'm Emma White, and I work in the suicide prevention and mental health space in multiple forms. I have a nonprofit called Life is Worth It. We focus on youth suicide prevention through upstream education. And then I also work for the state of Nevada and the Department of Education and the Office of Suicide Prevention in a few roles as the statewide youth suicide prevention coordinator. So my whole world is just about this.
And you recently were nominated, and actually you won Woman of the Year for Nevada, correct?
Yes, for USA Today. It's so funny.
cool.
Like people
Wow.
keep bringing it up, and I feel like it's like I haven't forgotten about it, but I'm just like, you don't walk into a room and at least for me, the first thing I don't say is
Hi, I'm Woman of the Year.
Right, I don't say that. So recently at events and stuff I've been at speaking, people have brought it up, and I'm like, oh my gosh, you know about that? How do you know about that?
That's
Silly.
awesome. So you have your own podcast too, correct? And book?
I do. In 2020, I released my book called It's Not Okay, But It Will Be. And it just details my story of surviving suicide and how other people can navigate it and what's helpful. And from there, just everything is built upon that. So everything I do is really focused on this whole body, whole mind approach. Because I think it's really important that we talk about mental health, but we have all these other dimensions of our health as well. So we want to make sure that they're all healthy and working together.
Yeah.
And May is a special month, correct?
Yeah, it is. It's Mental Health Awareness Month, which for me is every month. But, we do allocate a month for it, which is amazing.
That's awesome.
That's awesome. Well, thank you so much for being here. We really appreciate it. So lots of things happening right now in the community. So if you're new or newish to listening to this podcast, we are Community Cares Podcast, which is a local podcast that highlights 3 or more interesting events happening in the community. And then we also go through and share a community resource. This week is Emma White with what was the name of the nonprofit again?
It's called Life is Worth It.
Life is Worth It. And so Life is Worth It, and it is an honor to have you here. Thank you. And we're all about community. We're all about bringing people together. So you can find this podcast too on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, all over the place, and then also live on Facebook. But today is not live, and that is because it is Memorial Day. So
Yeah, I would like to just take a moment to, remind everybody, as we know, freedom isn't free, and some gave all, but all gave some, and some gave all. And I just want to thank those who've served and their families, and those who made the ultimate sacrifice. We just really appreciate it. And I know Monday, this is airing on Monday, hopefully, right?
Hopefully. If it uploads. I don't know. This has been quite the uphill battle. So.
Our friend Christopher Councilman Dare is actually going to be having an event at the Sparks Marina at the Veterans Memorial. So if you guys want to go down there, that's a great event to pay your respects.
It is so pretty. Oh
Yeah, it's
my
beautiful.
goodness. That memorial. Have you been there?
Yeah, I actually saw it a few months ago, and I don't know if I just hadn't paid attention, but I stumbled upon it because I was taking a walk around the marina. Then all of a sudden I got to it, and now I've seen why it was started and who started and all these things. So yeah, it's amazing. It's really fantastic.
Nika and I, my wife Nika, we're both big Disney fans, and I've got to be honest, it feels very like the quality feels very Disney-esque. I mean, for me, that's a high compliment. For other people, that might not be a high compliment. I don't know.
Yeah.
But it just quality, clean, and it's cleaned by volunteers is what Christopher was saying last time he was on the show with us. And so it's volunteer-led and run, and it's a really cool thing.
It's actually Blue Star Moms that, so they've lost a child to the service, and so they go down there and clean. They're an amazing group of ladies, Gold Star families as well. So it's really special.
What time is the event? Is it just all day today?
I'm not
or-
sure. I know if you go on the Facebook, I was thinking about that just a second ago. If you go to their Facebook, it'll have the time of the event.
Okay, so you might have missed it. Who knows? So
Yeah. Oh, 5:45. That's true.
yeah. Well, if it happened, I hope you were able to do something in memory. I mean, even just a moment of silence or something
Yeah.
like that, just to honor those that have fought for the country, for our freedom. So definitely happy Memorial Day. And we are definitely all about community and being out in the community because we really are better together. We really are. So let's highlight some upcoming events in the community. The first one we wanted to highlight is the Reno River Festival, which is an awesome event that they do. And that will be from June 7th to June 9th. That's down in Wingfield Park. Have you been to the festival? Have you seen that before?
I have, yeah. I mean, I'm born and raised Nevadan, so you see all the events every year, just kicks it off. And I think that probably is the first event that kind of kicks all the summer stuff off.
I think so, yeah. And it is so fun. I mean, seeing everyone, it's really hard to kayak and stuff.
I love watching the kayakers. Yeah.
Yeah, we were talking about that
Pretty cool.
last week. And it's pretty crazy. And you were saying you did kayak, right?
It was the last time.
Yeah.
The first and last time you kayak.
It was a lot tougher than it looked like.
Sure.
It was it was kind of scary. It gets a little fast when the river's high over
Yeah.
by the rocks. So yeah, it was an
Yeah.
experience. I like tubing down there though.
I already told my story about my tubing experience last week. I
Poor
almost
Scraps
died.
almost died.
And I
Your
almost,
dog.
my dogs made it. They would have been fine.
Yeah.
But we weren't wearing life vests. You need to wear life vests, though.
I think it's
We
funny. Your
weren't.
dad is a safety officer, and he never heard that story. And he flipped out.
I know we were live and he was flipping out on the podcast. It was funny. So yeah, definitely check out the Reno River Fest. It's a lot of fun, an interesting thing to do in the community. The next event we want to highlight is the Street Vibration Spring Rally, and that will be on June 7th as well. And that's just Reno Sparks, downtown area. They do it all over the place, but it's always fun to see all the different motorcycles and all that kind of stuff, and kind of, kicks off things as well with the Reno River Fest. So you're going to hear motorcycles and then also people by the river.
Yeah, that's awesome. Sounds like fun.
My dad's a big motorcyclist.
Is he?
Yeah, he has a Harley and everything. He loves it.
That's not very safe.
Oh, he's very safe. He actually teaches the motorcycle training courses.
That's interesting.
So, you know the ones at Team CC? Yeah.
He's an interesting guy.
Yeah, that's a word. He's interesting.
Yeah, I was sitting on my couch the other day in Midtown, and a bunch of motorcycles came, so I knew it was getting close to this next event.
Yeah, no, it's gonna be fun. I always love walking around the bars and stuff downtown Reno, seeing all the motorcycles parked out, and there's some really pretty ones for sure. People come from all over the place for these events. It's crazy.
Yeah.
I think the thing that catches a lot of people off guard when they come to the Reno Sparks area is all the different events we have, because we have so many events. Most cities our size do not have as many events as we have. So that's just the reality. And we're not a big city. We're growing, but we're not huge. And we have an event in the summertime almost every single weekend. And we highlight events all the time. Mm-hmm. And it's a really good thing to go out and be in the community, have conversations with people, maybe meet someone new that you wouldn't meet before, right? Yeah. What do you think about that, Chaz?
It's been one of those weeks, and I can barely think, I'll be honest with you.
How's that coffee?
No, it is true. We're stronger united. It's always about, getting out and just being a part of the community. And I do love, we have so many great events. I'm so excited I know you're not excited for the rib cook-off because you're vegan.
Oh, I enjoy it.
Vegetarian.
Nick and I are vegetarian. Yeah, we're both vegetarian.
But Andrea bought a table, and she's going to let Lily and I go, and it's all you can eat ribs. So, do you like ribs?
I love ribs.
Oh,
yeah.
It's so amazing. It's like the only qualm I have is that they have all the barbecue sauces, but they're not labeled.
Oh.
So you don't know which, like when you like one, you don't know which one it was.
That's kind of annoying.
I know.
Actually, like I'd be annoyed by that.
Yeah. So it's a lot of fun though.
I do. So I like making veggie wings and veggie ribs.
Yeah.
Like
I'll have to try that. That would be interesting.
That look said you didn't want to try it.
Yeah. I'll try it for you.
All right. I'll make you some. Don't worry.
Awesome.
Have you over. All right. So in the last event we wanted to highlight is the downtown Reno Riverwalk City Plaza Great American Parade on July 4th. And Great American Craft Fair, they've been a great partner to us. They donate all those spots for us every single event.
Thank you, Brighton.
So thank you so much, Brighton. He's been on the show. Great guy. Great American Craft Fair. They're really doing a lot of big events in the community. So, but yeah, we'll be down there for the July 4th event over on Virginia Street. So definitely come on down, be a part of it, see what's happening on July 4th. I know it's a little bit further out, but we always want to make sure to highlight so you can mark your calendar so you can be a part of what's happening in the community.
Yeah, absolutely. I saw a staggering statistic from one of your coworkers from the Children's Cabinet this morning, and that's Taylor Morgan, of course, great guy. And it said that 12.3% of all high schoolers in Nevada have attempted suicide.
Yeah, he's probably looking at the Youth Risk Behavior Survey. It's probably
that's crazy.
Yeah, we actually just started to get our numbers from. We collect the numbers as a state, but we're not allowed to give them out to the community until the CDC confirms it, which it takes them about 2 years to confirm, which is always hard because 2022 is telling a different story than where we're sitting at now, right? But yeah, it's interesting to see some of the numbers, especially as we looked at 2022 coming out of the pandemic and some of the long-lasting effects of it, and then some things we're actually getting better at. So so it's interesting to see. We know that suicide is a huge problem for our youth, but it's also a big problem for our veterans and our 65 and older.
Our seniors, for sure.
Yeah.
Well, it comes from a place of pain into purpose for you. So tell us a little bit about why you got involved with this and your story and all the different things that you're a part of.
Yeah, I think in life, a lot of times your purpose finds you, and sometimes it's things that you really didn't ever think or want to do or be a part of. So when I was 15, I started getting bullied at school and harassed on social media and stalked by some classmates and all of the things. And I didn't know how to deal with it. We didn't talk about it. This was in 2010. So you think about 14 years ago, it's just a different world when it comes to social media and talking about mental health. So when I experienced those things, I didn't know what it was. I didn't know I had depression. I didn't know I was anxious. And so that made me feel very alone and scared. And so many people feel like when something goes wrong that they're embarrassed to ask for help because they just feel like I should be able to handle this. And so that sitting in that loneliness space really led me to thinking that the only way to get rid of the pain was to end my life, which is what so many people feel. It is about pain and wanting to end pain. Thankfully that didn't happen, and I'm here today, and it put me on this path that again I never thought I would be on, but I'm so glad that I am, because there's nothing I want to be doing more. I mean, I love everything that I get to do.
When you're called, right? It's a calling, for sure.
Absolutely.
So what are some of the resources out there that you would recommend for parents to be aware of? Because I know there's some good ones. For example, you do a workshop with Renown, partnering with Renown, correct?
Yeah, we have a few contracts with Renown, which is really awesome. So every month we have a virtual series. It's the third Wednesday of the month from 6 to 7 p.m. And you can register on our website at lifeisworthit.org. And every single month we discuss a different dimension of wellness, which is really cool. And then we are doing in-person workshops as well. So look out for those this summer. And there's a lot of resources. Sometimes we think, oh gosh, we don't have access to this or that, which is true. But we do have resources still. So the biggest one being 988, the crisis lifeline. And you can call it, you can text it, you can chat online with it. That's a 24/7 resource. There's a few options there. So if you press 1, you'll get veteran support. If you press 2, you'll get someone speaking Spanish. Option 3 is LGBTQ, but you don't have to pick any option. Sometimes people go, oh, well, I don't fit into any of these, and then they hang up the phone. You don't have to pick any option. So that's a really great resource. I would say NAMI we have several chapters in Nevada. NAMI is a national organization, but we have Northern Nevada, Western Nevada, Southern Nevada. They've got really great support groups. They actually have a warm line. So I apologize, I don't have the number memorized. It's not a 3-digit number, but you can text it as well, and you'll get a trained crisis counselor on the other line to help you with whatever you're going through.
That's awesome. I know the OSP, or the Office for Suicide Prevention, also has a suicide survivors group that Misty does, as well as Janet. So you can get that information on the state website. There's nvdonor.org for the Nevada Donor Network. They do community groups. There's a suicide survivors group and adult and children's grief support group there. We also have a free grief support group on the first and third Tuesday at 3:30 p.m. You can go to colhospice.com to get that information. So there are a lot of great general resources out there. And if you have any questions, please reach out to us. And you also do a lot of training, which is so important to prepare the community to be able to support their family members and friends. Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, it can be really scary to talk about suicide or ask about suicide, especially if you've never had any training on it, right? It's not something that we just are inherently born with. So it is important to get trained for yourself or for somebody else. So there's so many trainings that are offered through the Office of Suicide Prevention. If you've never taken one before, I would suggest you take a Safe Talk or Suicide Prevention 101, which helps you kind of practice a little bit, recognizing what could be signs of suicide and how do I ask the question? Because, I mean, I do this for a living. I've asked this question so many times and I still get nervous sometimes, right? And then there's some other more intense trainings like Assist, which is a 2-day training, and it helps you build safety plans and really do more of a clinical intervention if you're in a clinical role. So that's a really great training, but there's so many out there. So, and we provide a lot of them. So you can go to the Office of Suicide Prevention website and you'll find it.
I know that we had talked about 65 years and older, excuse me, and last year a third of our suicides, according to the ME's office, were seniors, unfortunately, probably because they're isolated and less resources in the climate we're in. But I really do love that we're educating all levels of society. I know Taylor is actually doing an assist for seniors, and Andrea Pelto, who's been on our show, she's really excited. She's going to be taking that. And I think it's great because we can all make a difference. You don't have to be a social worker or therapist or chaplain, though those roles are important in the appropriate setting, of course.
Right.
But we can all make a difference by being kind and connecting with people and sharing resources.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, you don't have to be PhD level to save a life. You really don't. It just takes knowing what to look for and how to ask the question. And, you know, as a society, we're not scared to ask people if someone's throat is hurting or if they have a headache or a fever, right? We just ask. We don't even take a training on that, right? Can you imagine we're taking a training on how to ask someone if they have a fever? So I hope we get to that point, and I think we will. And we're doing more trainings now than ever. And it's really exciting to see, especially for that 65 and older, some of our numbers coming out is actually showing that for the first time in Nevada's history, we are actually out of the top 5 for seniors suicide deaths. So we're really excited about that and making some progress in that.
That's awesome. Well, I'd love to dive in a little bit. Talk about your nonprofit a little bit.
Yeah.
Diving into that. Let's talk about that. What inspired you to start? You started the nonprofit, right? And why don't you just kind of give us the heart and the mission behind it?
Yeah, so it definitely came out of my own lived experience for sure. We didn't learn about those things when I was in high school, and they are doing a better job of screening for suicide, talking about suicide, but we still have a long way to go when it comes to overall health education, and that's a huge gap in the education system right now. So just for context, right now in Nevada high schools and many other states throughout the country, you just have to take 1 semester of health to graduate high school, which is about 16 weeks. So you think about 16 weeks to learn about how your body works, how it functions, how do I fuel it, how do I take care of my brain, and all. It's just not enough time, right? And then we have middle schools that don't have any health requirements. So you actually don't have to take health at all in middle school. Wow. And for me, I think that that's a really big gap because people deserve to know how to take care of their brains and their bodies, not only to help prevent suicide, but just to help them navigate life, right? So I became really passionate about that in 2019. I was writing my book, was gearing up for the nonprofit launch. And then COVID happened. And so the question was, do we launch a nonprofit in the middle of a pandemic? Because there was no funding. We couldn't do anything in person.
Yeah.
We decided to do it anyways. And it honestly ended up being the best thing for us. We did things virtually. We got support because now this light is being shed on mental health challenges that have been around forever. We just didn't want to talk about it. So, so we launched in 2020 and it's just been amazing. So we focus on upstream health education in programs, workshops, and we actually are working on a first of its kind high school health curriculum. And we hope to implement that in all Nevada high schools by 2030,
That's awesome.
which is a big dream. But I believe we're going to do it.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, that's what matters, right?
Yes.
So just making it happen. But so for instance, do you have any stories you want to share, specific stories about the nonprofit, how it's helped a specific person or something like that?
Yeah, so we focus on youth age 10 to 24, but we also include their communities. And community means so many things. It means families, caregivers, but it also means people that are interacting with youth. So we not only train youth, but people that work with youth. I think one of the most important things for me whenever we give workshops is that there's always at least one person that comes up that says something along the lines of, "Thanks for sharing, me too."
Wow.
And I've never been able to share that. People's like, I've never been able to share that because I've never felt supported or safe. But hearing me share, parts of my story in a safe way that makes people feel seen and heard.
Right.
I don't ever walk out of a workshop or a training without somebody coming up and saying, I've experienced this too. And I think that's really powerful and really important because at this point, I really don't know anybody who hasn't been impacted either by suicide or a mental health challenge. It's just too prevalent at this point. But everybody isn't as comfortable sharing. So, and you don't have to be you don't have to go out and write a book like I do and speak in front of people to talk about those things, but just to have somebody that you can, go up to and bond with is really healing.
Absolutely. Yeah. No, I think that's really good. And education is the big piece. Having those conversations is the big piece. Because, all of this doesn't work. This world doesn't work without conversations, without having that opportunity to be able to open up and talk about the truth with people. Like, this is a real issue. It's not something to just keep pretending isn't there, right?
Yeah, and honestly, I know there's so many things going on in the world, and maybe I'm a little biased, so I'll just, admit that. But I think that suicide is the biggest issue of our time.
I agree.
I really
100%.
do. Because we look at our numbers and we've got other health issues like heart disease, which takes more people than anybody else, and opiates and all of these different things. But suicide is the single most preventable cause of death. We can't always prevent a car accident or somebody having a stroke. We can't always prevent that, but we can try our hardest to prevent suicide as best we can. So I think that and I think it's going to continue to be the largest issue of our time until we get people to understand.
I was at actually with Taylor, we were speaking at the AFSP walk. And it's just every year, I've done it for 3 years. I'm always blown away when they start raising their hands for the different kinds of impact. And almost everybody raises their hand for one area.
Right.
And it's shocking, when you realize that it's not just in your circle, it is truly a pandemic of suicide. But we are making strides, and people like you are doing incredible things. And so thank you for what you do. How can people get involved to volunteer and maybe, donate to your nonprofit? And what would volunteer look like?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So if you go to our website at lifeisworthit.org, you'll find information on how you can get involved or how you can donate. We have people who sponsor workshops and they just want to be an anonymous donor. So they say, hey, I don't need my logo, or I don't need my name. Then we have other people who are like, no, put my logo there. And so we do that too, which is fine. We respect people's choices. And so you can sponsor a workshop. You can donate to help us when we sell my book, when we sell my book, every dollar goes right back into the community,
awesome.
which is really important. And so, yeah, there's all different ways you could get involved. You can find the volunteer page. You can find information on supporting us. There's
And what's the website?
lifeisworthit.org.
Lifeisworthit.org. And people can support you financially and then also with time.
Yep.
And other things. So that's great. Thank you so much for sharing. I appreciate it. Is there anything else you wanted to add before we close that up?
I just want to encourage people, if you are struggling, like, just recognize that we all struggle at some point. This idea that we're all perfect and I don't know anybody that's not struggling right now. They just might not verbalize it. So if you are one of those people that's struggling, or you know someone who is, don't be afraid to reach out to them. I think as society, we always say, oh, if you need something, let me know. But when you're in that place, it's really hard to say that. So I encourage people to reach in. Don't wait for them to reach out. Reach into them. Even if you feel like you're getting in their business, like, suicide prevention is everybody's business.
That's right. So, it's nonpartisan. It's an everybody issue.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I always think about, like, for me, like, everyone always thinks, oh, I'm bothering them.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I'm bothering them. And that's always the thing. And I think that sometimes too, right?
I think that when I'm texting you every morning. Did you do this? No.
But the reality is most people, maybe you are bothering some people, maybe, but probably not. Like,
right.
Honestly, getting checked in, like, if I get a text from one of my friends and it just says, hey man, I'm just thinking of you. Would you like to get coffee or something? Just, hey, just thinking of you. Whatever. That, for me, it really does relieve some stress and releases endorphins, because you're like, oh, wow, someone cares about me, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right.
So, but that's always the thing is we're always looking for that instigator friend. And the reality is that instigator friend should be everyone, right? It should be. But not everyone is outgoing all the time. Not everyone is that instigator friend. But I do believe it's so important because just that connection piece, even if you don't even think that person is struggling with suicide or anything else, is just helps mental health. It really does. Every time.
I think it goes back to connectivity, like we're talking about. And I, for the parents that might be listening, who might be thinking, oh, that's not my child, that could never happen to my kid. What would you say to them? A piece of advice to be able to have those conversations regardless, because we have so many stories like Carrie from Forever 14, Brandon or Eric Moulette's son. I mean, there's just so many cases of, I never saw it coming. So what's the advice that you would give to parents who are listening?
I would say try to take those blinders off because it can be your child. It can be anybody. And I speak on my own experience because I was a varsity athlete. I have wonderful parents. I have sisters that I care about. I'm very fortunate with my upbringing, but that didn't impact me having thoughts of suicide. So it can be anybody. There's not a face to it.
Sure.
It can be any age, any culture, any demographic, right? Yeah. So I think we have to take those blinders off. And also, and I'm not a parent, but I hear this a lot. And so I just wanted to say this. If your child is struggling, that's not a direct reflection that you failed or that you were doing something wrong. Because I think parents are like, gosh, I've given all these things. Why are they still struggling? Well, because there's all these things outside of your control. Kids at school, whatever it is that's impacting. Bullying is a huge issue. So I would just say, don't be afraid to have that conversation because our kids, this is ingrained in their language. Yeah. They talk about suicide all the time. So it's up to us as adults to get on board.
It's powerful. It gave me chills.
Well, yeah, and get on board because you just said, well, it might not be your fault, but it actually might be too. So the reality it might be. Because I was a youth pastor for a little bit, and man, there are some parents, I was like, come on, love on your kid. And they're like, well, I love them enough. And I'm like, no, do something with them. Take them out for coffee, and like you're pleading with these parents so sometimes it is the parents' fault. I struggle sometimes with the victimhood piece of society. Sometimes we tend to give ourselves excuses a lot, and other times, because I could just say again, I didn't text my friend again. I didn't text Chaz, even though I thought about him, but I didn't. Oh well. And we don't need to hold ourselves accountable and beat ourselves up over it. Mm-hmm. But I think holding each other accountable is actually a healthy thing to do, maybe.
Sure. And it's funny, you're about to be a dad. Congratulations.
Oh, congratulations.
Yeah.
You're holding out on us, not letting me know.
Oh, yeah.
Well, he knew, obviously.
Yeah. No, yeah, we have a little boy on the way.
Aww.
So his name is Stephen Casper McLaughlin. And we're super excited.
That's so exciting.
So
Well, with that, I just want to encourage the parents out there, because we all struggle, and generational dysfunction gets passed on from generation to generation. And so, those parents that you're talking about, you may look at it as they're being victims, but they may have not had the tools. Now,
Sure.
there comes a point when you have to choose to get those tools. And I think that's like the assist class and having those conversations and attending workshops. We have the opportunity to make that difference now.
Yeah.
And so it's important to step up and say, okay, I don't want to repeat the path of what I went through with my parents.
Sure.
And I want to be there more for my children.
and in that has to be that parent's choice to
Absolutely,
do that, though.
for sure.
So
Yeah. Well, and one of the things I will say that I find in so many of my trainings is people come in for a professional job, right? I've got to get my CEU credits and I've got to do these things, but they come in and there's 90% of the time people learn something for themselves.
Yeah.
And I think that's something that we see with families as you talk about that generational trauma. My parents didn't grow up talking about emotions or talking about mental health. It just wasn't something that they knew how to do.
Yeah.
So I think that it's really important that we recognize that sometimes parents struggle having that conversation with their kids because they have unmet needs.
Yeah.
And we want to make sure that everybody's getting the services and support that they need and they could do it together.
Yeah.
Which I love. I think that's even a more special experience.
Yeah.
To go to those workshops together and be able to get that information.
Yeah, but the reality is do something.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I mean, that's the bottom line. Do something.
Yep.
Because people matter, right?
Absolutely.
Human beings matter.
They do.
Something. So if you hear one thing, do something.
I love the saying where it says, every person you meet has a unspoken battle that they're fighting internally.
Sure.
And so just be kind to people. Be kind to each other.
Yeah, maybe.
So be kind to me, Dave.
He's looking at me like, be kind to people, Dave. I'm like,
just teasing it.
Okay, so make sure to be the change you want to see in the world.
Oh, yes, our tagline. That's right.
You didn't say it once, dude.
I know.
Well, that's, I'll say, to add to that, I think sometimes we get so caught up in like, I got to change the world or I got to save the world. But the reality is the only way that we change the world is by individually changing people's lives.
One step at a time.
So I think, to change the world, we all got to be a part of
That's
it.
right.
And do it.
Amen.
Just
And do it.
be that person, right?
Like, not a
Just
Nike
do it.
ad.
Not sponsored. So thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate it. This has been a great conversation.
We finally did it, right?
And-
It's going to upload?
It might. Who knows?
Save.
This honestly, this was a great conversation, so I really appreciate it.
Yes, thank you.
And thank you for being here. Woman of the year right here.
I know. I feel so
Jeez
privileged.
Louise. And so we really appreciate it. Thank you guys so much for watching and being a part of this.
So you gotta do it.
If you want to find...
Oh, yes. Love you guys.
If you want to find out more about Good Shepherd's Clothes Closet, please visit getclothes.org. Our tickets for our event on July 11th are live right now, and they are selling.
We got some cool swag. It's going to be so much fun. Some great sweets from around the world.
Yeah, desserts from around the world is going to be July 11th, all in support of Good Shepherd's Clothes Closet. Those tickets right now are $50, but those ticket prices will go up as we get closer to the event. There's going to be all sorts of different desserts, and it's all in support for a good cause. We give away over $70,000 worth of clothing every single month for free to the people that need it the most. So please come. Please be a part of it. You should come. It'll be fun.
I'll have to look at my calendar. See what I have going on.
It's going to be a fun event. So please be there. It'll be at NAMM, National Automobile Museum, and front page of our website, getclothes.org. You can click the buy tickets. It's right there. So thank you guys so much for watching. We help 700 people a month, no matter what. We're asking you to come alongside and help one. All right, guys. Thank you so much. We'll see you next week.
Take care.